So it is 7 o'clock, and so I'm going to welcome everybody to our first meeting of the year, and it's similar to our first meeting last year. And we have with us our students who attended NCCWSL at the very end of May this last year and June. And so we had such a fantastic time last year that we wanted to hear from the students again. And we are again very pleased to do this with AAUW California Online. We have some guests here. First, I would like to introduce Gail Swain, who is the president of AAUW California Online. Gail, would you like to say a few words?
Just thank you so much for again setting up this program and inviting the students. It was wonderful last year, and I'm sure it will be again this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The guests we have today, the students we have today, are Chelsea Doherty, and we have Priscilla Tsao, and we have Ariel Lee. Yeah. So we have some guests. We have Kathy Foxhoven, who is the program VP for California Online. And we also have Wendy Cook, who is the coordinator of all of our NCCWSL participants in Oregon. And she does yeoman service, coordinating not only the applications, but travel arrangements. And she's like the mother hen to all the Oregon participants to make sure that they get all their arrangements together and that they get over to Maryland together and make sure that they are in communication with each other and they buddy up and makes it sure that it's a good experience for all of them. Since we have three panelists, why don't we just alternate? We have one person, Priscilla, is from California, Chelsea and Ariel are from Oregon. Each young woman will have 7 to 9 minutes to introduce herself and talk about her experiences. And then after all the panelists have spoken, we'll open it up to questions from the audience. I did put in the chat a link to donations for a fundraiser to the Oregon scholarship that our branch, Oregon Online, presents to our scholarship winner from our Oregon branch. I don't know if the California branch is going to provide a scholarship this year or not. So without further ado, let's hear from Chelsea Doherty.
Thank you, Georgia. Hello, everyone. It's so nice to meet many of you. I think I've only had the pleasure of meeting Wendy so far. And yes, I cannot thank Wendy enough for all of that coordinating. I can only imagine how many moving pieces there was to get all of us out there and just all that administrative work. And I just want to thank everyone for your contributions to making my trip to NCCWSL possible. So I have the points that I'm supposed to hit on. So I am originally from Texas. I was born there. I moved to Kentucky for a short period of time, and I have now lived in Southern Oregon since I was 10 years old, and I'm now 40. So I've lived in lots of different rural areas, but mostly here in Southern Oregon. I am now currently a student at SOU in the graduate program in the Masters of Education. I am a first-gen student. I was a high school dropout, a very young single mother. So going to college and being a student was not something that I ever thought that I would be doing. But here I am because of access to resources like what you guys provided, scholarships. I'm a Ford family recipient, and that helped me get my way to my bachelor's degree. I've been teaching now at RCC for almost 7 years, student leadership, something I'm extremely passionate about. And that's actually what got me to NCCWSL, was being an advisor for student government and student leaders at RCC. One of the jobs that I do is to connect them to leadership opportunities. And I saw that come through one of my feeds on my social media. And I immediately told my student Tiffany Hyde, which you also gave a scholarship to. And that prompted me to consider that opportunity for myself, because I'm a graduate student right now. For some reason, I was a little nervous about it, because I'm used to giving those opportunities to my own students. But I said, you know what, I'm going to go for this too, because I feel like this is an amazing opportunity for me to get outside of my small town, prominently white experience. And I really wanted to get outside of that, where I knew there was going to be so much culture and so much more perspective for me to learn from. And boy, was it ever. I cannot tell you how incredible it was to travel to Washington, D.C., to such a large campus, the University of Maryland, and get to network with women from all walks of life. Make sure I'm on track here. So yes, I did receive financial support from AAUW Oregon. And again, thank you so much for that scholarship. I'm going to continue to promote that to my students that I still work with at community college here in Southern Oregon. And so now to go into some of the highlights. Well, there was a lot. I would say one of the challenging parts of the conference actually was because it was just so invigorating, and I was so just excited to be there and to be present. It was actually really hard to take notes because I just really wanted to listen. So I did have a few, and my student Tiffany, we kind of talked a little bit before we got here, and I went back and visited a lot of the slides that I took photos of. I'm hoping that maybe next year they might have the opportunity for the sessions to be recorded if they're not, so that I can continue to go back and rewatch those sessions that I attended, because they were so full of wisdom and really great skills and tools. I have a toddler that might try to bust into the door. If you if you hear, I apologize. Okay, so one of the most impactful breakout sessions that I attended was actually led by Dr. Grace Virtue, and it was on authentic leadership, which was really timely for me to be going to that, because not only do I teach leadership to students here in Southern Oregon, but I also consider myself a leader, and I am impacted by leaders, right? Working in education, it's that full circle of teaching leadership and then also being led. And at that time, I was going through a transition at work where I was looking at seeing my position eliminated due to some challenging leadership decisions. I wasn't sure which direction it was going to go. There was just talk of my position being eliminated. And really being able to hear Dr. Virtue talk about authentic leadership and how it takes the different paradigms of critique, justice, care, and trust. It reminded me that I needed to be authentic to myself and really just be okay with whatever the outcome was going to be within my institution, and to be true to myself and understand my own values. It really resonated with me. I actually found myself in tears during her session, because she had talked about how she had also found herself working in a level of senior leadership where her values were not aligning with some of her colleagues. And she actually had to make that choice for herself, for her own values and her own health, to step away. And when that happened, many doors opened for her. And that was just such a powerful moment for me, because when I came back, I was more open to what was going to happen with my position. And lo and behold, that door did close, but another door opened for me. And it was just this full circle. And I have now found myself teaching GED to students who are wanting to start in community college or progress in their career. And I was also a high school dropout and got my GED. And so I was able to step out of that fear and be hopeful and be brave. And dare to be that way, right? That was the theme of the conference, was dare to be. And so I dared to be brave when I came back, and just be ready for whatever happened and keep a positive mindset. So that was a really big breakout session. There was another one that was on nonviolent communication, which really paired well because of that challenging kind of situation with senior leadership. And it really helped me know how to be in control of my own communication style, and how I would react to certain things, like my position being eliminated. That was extremely helpful. There was also another, how am I doing on time? Am I doing okay? Okay, I see some heads nodding yes. So one of the last sessions that I attended was on eliminating the leadership gap. And it's amazing to see how many women have now gone into leadership roles in higher ed. I think all the deans and the VPs are females at my institution, except for, well, maybe that we have a new male dean, and the president is male. So it's mostly female. And so that's amazing to look at. And I think one of the profound things that one of the women said, which is true, and I was glad for other people to hear it, was sometimes that can be challenging to be in a room with a lot of other independent, competitive women. And they don't always lift each other up. One of the things that she said, the panelist, was that sometimes her biggest barrier when she was looking up was in the face of another woman who was actually keeping her from excelling. And that really resonated with me as well, in my experience. And I really took that to heart to make sure that I am never going to be that woman, that I'm always going to lift up my other women counterparts and students, and never look at them as a competition, and continue to cheer them on. I wish that maybe some of the other leaders that I have experienced might have been there for that session. But nonetheless, that is what I took out of it and what I can carry on from that. So that was the big part of the conference itself. Just hearing from all of the powerful women of color was absolutely amazing and charging. But some of my favorite moments was outside of the conference, when I got to network with other women from across the country. We just happened to meet for dinner Thursday night, and we ended up touring Washington, D.C. together. We all took an Uber together, and I got to hear what their experience was from a university in Austin or somewhere on the East Coast, and these really difficult challenges that they were having. And it just kind of continued to open up my perspective of what education is like across the country and what those other challenges are. Because like I said, I live in a small town in Southern Oregon, and it just reminded me how I need to be intentional about continuing to grow that, like expand my network and hear what other people are experiencing. That was one of my favorite things about it. And then here's another key takeaway. This is more of a philosophical takeaway that I had when I was touring Washington, D.C. My daughter is an aspiring librarian, and she wanted to go to Washington, D.C. so bad. She is a student employee at RCC, where I work in the library. So I made it a point to go to the Library of Congress so that I could kind of see what that was like, and get her a souvenir. And I FaceTimed her when I could. But one of the most profound moments I had when I was in there was in the Jefferson's collection of all of those books. And just to be in that room and realize that at one point in time, having access to those books was something that only the privileged had, and how hard it was for people to be able to access even just education and knowledge as a whole, right? Because if you didn't have access to those books, you didn't have that, right? And knowledge is power. And I'm just so grateful that I live in a day and age right now that I have access to that power, to that knowledge, and so does my children. And how far we've come, right? Where I could just, all those books, it was amazing to look at all those books that he had in there. I have so many pictures, and I cannot wait to take my daughter back there to the Library of Congress, and just experience that rich culture that is there, and knowing where we've come from and having hope for where we're going. All in all, it was absolutely amazing. I hope that one day I could go back in another capacity. Thank you so much. I cannot just thank you enough. It was a life-changing experience, and I think I'm going to leave it at that. I feel like I talked a lot.
Thank you so much. Sounds like you had a most wonderful time and we're most impressed. Is there anything or any way that what you experienced is going to, how is that going to impact you going forward? You already said how it's impacting you right now.
Yeah. Well, I think how it's going to impact me going forward is because I'm a natural leader. I've always been that way, even when I worked fast food, right? And I'm a mother, and I'm hopeful that I'm going to find myself in a leadership role, either at my institution or maybe at a different organization. And wherever I'm at, I'm going to carry that learning with me and model by example, and continue to lift other people up as I've always done. There was just so many tools and skills that I learned from that conference, that I can always go back to. It's already helped me a ton in my graduate program to think about, what leadership means, how to be authentic, and just also to ask for help when I need it too, and to continue to build my network. Like, we don't do this by ourselves. And so I think that's how I'm going to carry it forward, just to continue to tap into those things in the challenging moments, in the great moments, and lead by example.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, let's hear from Priscilla next.
Hi, hello everyone. I hope you can hear me. I'm not wearing a microphone. So my name is Priscilla, and my last name will be Priscilla So. You can call me Priscilla So or Pri. So let me introduce myself a little bit. First, thank you for having me tonight. I'm really excited to share my experience in the conference which I attended last year at Nicholas Willow. So I am born and raised in Hong Kong, and then came to California 6 or 7 years ago. And I started attending community college while during the pandemic, because I think why not going back to school, and when there's nothing else I can do during the pandemic. So being a quotation non-traditional student going back to school, it's when I attended school, it was a little bit intimidating because everyone near you they were just graduated from high school, and being a woman as well. I remember when I was graduating high school, one thing that hit me really the most is I remember I got a really not a very good grade to get into a very competitive environment in Asia, that I couldn't get into university. And one of the options is also going to community college, where I was born, in Hong Kong, but it's very unaffordable compared to California. I remember what my father said. He mentioned being a woman, you shouldn't be studying so much. You do not have to. Like, you don't have to. Like, you can just go on with something else. And because of financial situation, I didn't continue my education right away, but that moment hit me the most, that I felt like I don't believe in that. And coming into community college, being very grateful in at Skyline College in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was really grateful to receive education in California, and then joined um, a Women Leadership Academy in Skyline College, which the founder, Ms. Powell, is also here today. And I was really lucky to be a student leader in the program, being a peer mentor with other students. So this is where I got my scholarship and chance to be able to receive the scholarship to go to the conference last year from the San Mateo County, which is really grateful because this is a very valuable experience for me, and I'm going to share why. So first, I would have never thought that without the scholarship or this opportunity of like going to this women leadership conference, that I would be able to go to DC, because I like going to Maryland as well, and being able to stay in such a beautiful campus and seeing all the students and all the other women leaders in such a beautiful campus. It's very inspiring for me, that it's telling me that it's possible. Like, there is no limit in what I am going to achieve or what do I want to do. Because I thought, before I came to this conference, I thought, oh, I was not able to figure out what I wanted to study. So one of the biggest inspiring moment was when I was attending this workshop from her name is Tressie, who is the speaker in this workshop. She was speaking of how her life was going through hardship, and she was being locked up. Like, she didn't know about the environment outside. She was being like um isolated by her parents. She didn't know how, and then she got hurt and she almost lost her leg. And then how she developed her own NGO to help other women to go through things, the challenges in their life. And then one of the biggest moment was sitting next to me was a student who, I think she was about 19 or 20 years old. And that workshop was about planning, teaching us how to plan and grow our NGO. And then I saw her already had like ideas of running her own NGO as such a young age. And then it reminds me of my story of I shared with all of you earlier about how my father told me that I shouldn't be studying. And it reminds me I still have the time. I still have the ability and power to achieve my academic career or my dream career. So at that time, I was like, this is not limited. And it shows me that's not something that I should be not doing and thinking it's really far away. So this is one of the biggest moments that like impact me during the workshops. And the second thing that I was in this conference that most take away from, besides all the workshops and going in and dressing professionally, like feeling powered, was being able to network with other students. Some of them are in bachelor programs, some of them are in community colleges. And I remember I was having lunch during the very beautiful cafeteria that they have with all the yummy food like every day. I was feeling really happy that they fed us really well. So during this lunch, I was sharing about how affording like bachelor program could be a little bit tricky for me because of income challenges. And then how one person was saying how they study in University of Baltimore, and then they receive scholarship, and all you need to do is apply and then like be there. And then that inspires me to look for schools that I think I really want to go and then apply for a scholarship. And it proved to me that now I am achieving my goal because I transferred just now. I graduated from Skyline College, and starting from this fall, I'm attending Mount St. Mary's University in LA without scholarships, and all the things that I have done and telling me I have the power to do it, being inspired by all these women in the conference that I may not able to apply, or I won't apply, but with all the scholarship I receive, I'm able to go and studying environmental studies, majoring in environmental studies. So this is also one of the big part that I got inspired by listening to how other students, knowing what their goals are, they're also exploring what they are doing, and which also plant a seed in me that it is possible to achieve what I really passionate in, studying about the environment, which because I always have this passion to learn about marine biologists, marine science, like being a marine scientist. And that's my long-term goal from now on. So this conference also helped me step out of my comfort zone, because as someone being able to like being brought to this student environment, spending time with all the other women leader, staying in a student dorm for the first time. It was challenging because even though there was 3 days, I'm getting used to how to navigate the space, and how I realize I'm actually really self-advocate in what I can power myself in moving onwards to different places and navigate spaces. And one of the most um, memorable moment was I was also in this trip with another peer mentor and student leader from our program. And then at night, we were able to have conversations of how to bring back all we have learned from this conference to our community, to serve our students in Skyline College as a peer mentor with the group that we're at, serving as well. So we were able to talk about how we're going to do it, and also how are we going to bring this and then recommend all the other women to go attend this conference the following year. So we were able to also send some of our women to this conference, which means this year, um, and they went. So I think this is one of I think it sums up all my experience is really impacted my life about like the choices that I have, and then not to let anyone else to tell me what I do, because I have seen other student leaders that they came from different liberal arts schools, and then how they look for the education. So this is like a biggest takeaway from me. So thank you for listening. And I think if you have any other questions, I'm willing to answer later. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Priscilla. That was great to hear that it gave you such a great confidence boost, because that's really one of the things that holds us as women back, is that we lack confidence. So thank you again. Yes, there'll probably be some questions afterwards. And now let's hear from Ariel Lee.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ariel Lee, And I am coming to you from the Midwest. I'm from Ohio, so it is late here. um, so I go to Oregon State through the eCampus, so it's online. And I am majoring in natural resource management with a human dimension specialization. So I'm in the School of Forestry. And I was able to receive the scholarship through AAUW Oregon. So I am very, very appreciative, as it has been mentioned before. So thank you so much for the scholarship, and so thankful for Wendy's cooperation, constant communication. It was such a great guide to help get over into the conference. So my experience with the conference was great. It was my first time. I actually received an email from kind of like one of the eCampus student success kind of emails that come through every couple of weeks, and it was one of those. This is what's going on, and with the scholarships that we offer. Here's what's going around the school, and I just so happened to run across the email, and I read it the first time, and I was like, "Oh, that's nice," and kind of went on about my day. And then I got the email again, and I said, "Okay, let me bookmark this and read it and see what's going on about it, going on." And then when I started to read about what it actually was, I was like, "Oh, I'm interested," and I went ahead and applied and got the scholarship. So I was very shocked actually when I got it. I was like, "Oh, well, okay, let's do this." So having that opportunity was, which I didn't know at the time, was stirring something up in me to where I didn't realize I needed it at the time. So I get to DC and Maryland, and the University of Maryland, and I've been to conferences before. I was like, "Oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to get so much knowledge." But what I didn't realize was the empowerment piece for me. That is what I needed to experience, because I think a lot of women and young ladies that were there, I think that was the biggest takeaway. Just kind of some of the conferences, the preemptive places that we would meet together, and then the recap at the end. I think a lot of women were just saying how just hearing each other's story and having a place, having a conference where women can come together and band together and say, we're all going through similar struggles, we're all going through similar things, but yet we overcome, and we are the force and the voice that continues to push for the next generation, which was so powerful to experience. Some of the places that I got to go at the university, and some of the events that I got to see was actually, I think Chelsea might have mentioned it, was the Grace Virtue workshop. We're talking about authentic leadership. For me specifically, I realizing that when I made my choice for my career path, which is going to be focusing more on sustainability, more in natural resource, that as a woman of color, as a woman first, and then as also as a woman of color, that I needed to be able to be a voice for people, for a demographic that is not going to be represented strongly. And that's always been important to me. And going through that workshop of being an authentic leader helped kind of remold, to say, what I needed to do and what my focus was as far as leadership. And then also going to different conferences or different workshops and speaking and hearing people speak about the importance of, we need to talk about diversity. We need to talk about inclusivity. We need to talk about what are these boundaries that we are facing as women in the workforce. That was a very strong topic or theme that I did see at this year's NCCWSL. So which also enlightened me as well. It's like, okay, we noticed that there's a need for change as far as people being represented, whether it be demographic, whether it be LGBTQ, whether it be even people who had disabilities. There was one workshop where someone talked about their disabilities and how they had to overcome that in their own workplace. So just talking about these different topics that women are facing was so monumental. Another piece for me that I got, another part of the workshop for me was I got to do the one with India Prather, where she talked about scholarships and basically being accessible to financial assistance and what can you do to basically advocate for yourself. That was influential for me because that was a big reason for me over the years why I wasn't able to finish my bachelor's degree before now, because I just couldn't afford it. But to be able to say, hey, we want to empower you and give you the tools to help you keep going and be able to succeed, was another moment of like, oh, okay, yeah, let me get some direction that's not always talked about. There was so much guidance and willingness to help. I even did a resume workshop, an impromptu resume workshop there, where they were just very open and willing to work with me. And even one of the ladies was one of the directors of the program, and I didn't even know it at the time. So, but everyone was just so willing to help in that workshop and in other places as well, that really was strong for advocacy. And then even one of the speakers, I actually ended up getting one of her books. It was Tressie McMillan Cottom. She was one of the recipients for the NCCWSL Woman of the Year. And her story was so provoking. It had a lot of us in tears. And she basically was talking about how in the beginning of her career and her motherhood and her relationships and stuff, she didn't have anything planned. She felt like she was so behind schedule, which resonated with a lot of us, but also resonated with me, because you feel like when you're not going into if you're going into a certain curriculum, a certain area, or a certain career path, you should do it within a certain time frame. And it talked about some of the social constructs that we as women that we're conformed into. So it really talked about kind of every aspect of a woman, of what women go through, which again was such a monumental part of the conference. So for me, I think that it really didn't hit me of how monumental it was until I got home. And I remember sitting on my couch and just going over the notes, just taking in all the experience. And I was like, oh, okay, this was a great conference. This was information. And then the next day I was sitting on my couch and I just my eyes started to well, because I was like, I felt this strong urge to say, no, I don't want to do the same thing that I have been doing before I got to that conference. I don't want to have the same outlooks. I don't want to have the same opinions. I want to be able to be a voice and an advocate in a space. I want to be an authentic leader. I want to transform my mind, and I want to utilize the tools here and moving forward, to make sure that I can be a representation in areas that may not be represented for women of color, for young adults, because, that is also another part of it as well, where younger women, and on the other side of the spectrum, where older women are also discriminated against as well because of age. So the conference for me definitely kind of lit a fire and ignited me to continue to seek ways to be a better leader and to get into leadership roles. I was actually promoted at my job, which I advocated for. And as I'm still looking to transition into my career path and focus on that, I'm still trying to find ways and use the resources that I have from this conference to push it forward. So those the conference, I definitely want to go again. The conference was an amazing experience. It definitely highlighted multiple multiple ideas, multiple things that women needed, that women go through. And I think that's the most important thing that Nick Whistle dare, like Tressie was saying, dare to be. That's what it was about. It was about to pushing past the norms, pushing past what we think is, what we can do, and daring to be something more. So that is what I think that was my biggest takeaway um, from the from the conference. And the campus was beautiful. They did have good food, so which was always a plus. And the camaraderie that was there, and the kind of the love in the room, the empowerment of the person that you didn't even know was there. And I love that atmosphere of just being able to say, no, you can do it. You're got this, and may not ever see that person again, but just know, like, and they meant it with a genuine heart, which I think that that's what the conference was about. So I'm going to wrap it up and kind of just let that be what it was. It was a great experience, and I think as many young women should, many professional women should be able to experience that as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It sounds like you broke through some invisible barriers you didn't even know you had and became empowered. Good on you. So, that's why I love hearing all these stories. It's just wonderful. And you know what? We have a couple of recordings of people that couldn't be here, but I think since you three are here, I think it's time to let the audience ask you some questions if they have any. I think you just blew everybody out of the ballpark with all these wonderful experiences. But I'm going to have Pat Lehman, do you have any questions that people have typed into the chat that they want asked?
Thank you. It's wonderful to hear from all of you. And I have a question for each of you, but there is one in the chat I'd like to start with, and it is for Ariel. Would you share again that book that you referred to in your presentation?
Yes, I was just getting ready to type it out. I will type it in the chat as well. It is Thick and Other Essays by Tressie McMillan Cotton. Like I said, I will definitely put that in the chat as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Do we have other questions? Yes, Kathy.
Priscilla, I have to tell you, when I asked my father many years ago to go to college and that I wanted to get into entertainment, he said, "You're not good enough. You're not good enough to be on television." And I said, "Papa, watch me." And a year later, I was on his favorite television show. So just remember, our fathers mean the best for us, but they give us that strength to say, yeah, we can do it. Just thought I needed to share that with you, Priscilla.
Thank you for sharing. That's actually really beautiful because it's also someone have not very similar, but similar experience, and how it came from also your family telling you what to do or what not to do. And even until this day, I'm also struggling about some of the things that my parents told me yes or no. I don't think it's going to go away. Yeah, but I agree with you how it gives you strength by someone telling you you're not capable, but you're going to look for the strength in you to prove that you're capable.
Thank you. Okay, my question, Chelsea, you talked about how you thought it would be a good idea to record the workshops so that the participants could go back and review them, because I know it is such a powerful experience, Nick Whistle, and it's almost information and emotional overload at times. And so being able to go back at a later time and review it would be also empowering. Do you have any other, and this is a question I'm going to ask each of you, do you have any other thoughts about what you could make different at NCCWSL that you thought might be helpful to people, participants?
For me, I'll just speak on it. I don't know, I try to take advantage of as much as I can for professional growth. So I've gone to some local conferences that are more affordable for me to go to here. And one of my biggest takeaways from there, which I was kind of the same thing at NCCWSL, was I really like I wish there was more of an intentional time for debriefing on what we've learned. Because a lot of times what I find is you go to a conference and you learn all this stuff, and then you just go back to being busy and you don't really have that time to come together with other people, either in your, kind of pathway of your career, or maybe not in your career, but just a smaller group to really debrief and kind of compare and contrast what you learned, right? Because I'm hearing Ariel, who also attended the same session I did, and it's really interesting to hear what her takeaways were versus mine, right? What stuck out for her. And I wish that there was more of that intentional time for us to debrief on what we learned.
Wonderful idea. Thank you. Yeah, that's really important. It's a way to solidify things in your mind as well. Thank you. And Priscilla, anything you would change?
I think something, instead of changing it, but it's like adding it.
Adding,
So
yeah.
for my year, the book writer is Minda Hart, and her book is targeting younger women, and her keynote like speech is amazing. But then there's also a gap in my heart that I wish there's something that would be more related to older women like me. And at the same time, there's also another issue about learning about the sessions that's going on, because there was one session that I went and there were only 10 people because no one knew about the workshop. It was right before the last celebrations award ceremony. That was during that lunch. It was supposed to be like the speaker set up the whole room with all the tables. It was about a board game about diversity. And that was something that bear in mind, that I think that's important to make sure, like how, because it was a little bit also hard to navigate like which workshop is in which location and what is it about, because we only have a digital app, which sometimes when I go to conference, that might be like booklet. I know like it might be budget wise, or like it's too much to include in one book to explain what the session is about. So the planning was not difficult for me because I'm pretty tech savvy, but I know some people might have a hard time going through like, oh, where should I go? I just go whenever I see on that day. So the preparation might be a little bit difficult for some feedback from my peers. And yes, so that's something that I think I would have want to add on to it. Yes.
That's a great suggestion also, so that it gives you more clarity and more focus about where you need to be and what's going to be happening. Yeah, and how relevant it is to your current interests. Yeah. Thank you. Great.
Of course.
And Ariel, how about you? What would you add or do differently? What would you have NCCWSL add or do differently?
Yeah. I think the only thing that I would, I guess, adhere would be just, I think the timing it was because there was so much information and there was so much great information that it was like you said, it was information overload. And so you are more likely to, miss some information or not see as many conferences. And I don't know if it's possible, if it be like maybe have some of them the day of arrival for people. I know some people did come on like that next day, but maybe potentially break it up for sessions between 2 days within the weekend or somehow, some way, just so people can have time to so they can have time to like decompress and say, okay, we did learn a lot of information, maybe see some conferences or some workshops that they may not have been able to see that one day, but they can maybe catch something that they, an alternative on the other. Just try not to cram everything into one day. I understand that there's a whole budget and a whole team for that. But there was a lot of information, of a lot of kind of go, 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 go. And you didn't want to miss anything. So you were kind of like all over the place a little bit. But other than that, we had a great experience. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. The conference should probably be a whole week, right? Yeah. And then you'll be able to do everything that you wanted to do and have time to decompress and think about it and debrief and so forth. Thank you. That's
Thank you.
great. Yeah. And one question from our lovely President Georgia. Would it be valuable to stay in touch with the group you went to NCCWSL with? And anybody want to answer that?
Yeah, I can jump on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely would definitely be a plus. Just a way to, of course, connectivity, a way of bonding, and also just, of course, to network. I think a lot of us, people had their own group chats, but if there was a way to just, which we all could probably do just through social media, which I think a lot of people did at the conference, where they traded social media or like Indeed profiles and stuff like that. But it was very much, that would be a great way to can keep everyone connected in NCCWSL, and just continue to ignite that fire, that empowerment that women were having.
Right. Keep the fire burning. Yeah. Thank you. And Priscilla, I saw you head up.
Yes, thank you. So I think it is very valuable to stay in touch with the group I went to. So during that day, during the conference, I was able to use LinkedIn to connect with them. So that was the main tool that I hope to stay in contact with them. And then one of the, I forgot this person. So there's one person I forgot her name, but she was trying to like offer mentoring sessions to women later after the conference as well. So I think it is also very valuable because we are all from different places. And then what is also valuable because of this conference, after learning all so much about the information and the way how this conference runs, I would like so our like Skyline College is having their own women conference in the next spring. So what I would like to do is bring all the things that I have learned from this conference, what I've been learning how to serve other people to the conference back to my community college. So I think it is very valuable because keeping them in touch, we can also have discussion or bring them to the conference, or they can share about their ideas of attending or anything input to the future conference as well. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
And Chelsea?
Most definitely. I think, unfortunately, I didn't get to travel with the larger group because I departed and returned on a different day than them. But I can see already the value just in the small interactions that I had with them at the conference, because we live in the same kind of area. And, who knows where our paths could cross again, and we can continue to, build each other up and encourage each other to overcome certain challenges. Just building the network. I think it's even a more inspiring idea that I got to connect with women from all over the country as well, too, right? Like, not to say I do not want to, I definitely want to connect with people across Oregon, but just that networking with the women that I did from Texas and California and the East Coast, and exchanging socials like Instagram and Facebook, and LinkedIn is great, but I think the socials even beyond that are really important. So yeah, I just think encouraging everyone to even exchange socials is a really important part of it.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. And Marty wants me to remind, if you haven't seen the chat, wants me to remind attendees that AAUW has fellowships and grants available to graduate level students, giving over $6 million in fellowships and grants this past year. There may be something in there for you. The application process is open now. So you might just want to check that out and see what else AAUW can do for you. Any other questions? It's been wonderful hearing from all of you and hearing your thoughts about NCWSL and your suggestions. And I think maybe now it's probably time.
Gail has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that, Gail.
I too had a similar situation, but it was my mother of all people that was like, what do you want to go to college for? Who do you think you are? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm me. I'm going to college and I'm paying for it myself. So there you go. But I wanted to share my mantra, and I don't know if it'll come up, but I'll read it to you. It's go ahead, underestimate me. This will be fun. So when people look at you and you can tell they're thinking, oh yeah, whatever, just prove them wrong.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's great.
I love that. I love that.
We have a couple of videos.
Hi, my name is Sophie Fisher, and I attended the NCCWSL conference of May of 2024. I was funded for this conference through the Oregon Online Branch Scholarship, and I actually heard about this conference and this opportunity through my school during my senior year at the University of Oregon. In the early spring, I received an email from the director of my major advertising this conference and also the scholarship opportunity, and I remember reading that email and looking more into NCCWSL and the conference and some of the workshops that were going to be held, and was really inspired to apply and really excited for this opportunity. And now, after having attended this conference and having a few months to reflect on this experience, I think one of the big things that sticks out to me is the power of cultivating your community and how impactful that can be, and truly the lasting impact that establishing those connections, networking with others is in your life. Particularly, one of my favorite things about NCCWSL is that I think they make a truly concerted effort to build in time so that you can make those connections and build this community of people from across the United States, even people that I got to know from other countries as well. And one of my favorite memories from this conference was just having the different meal times where I got to share meals with some of my the fellow conference attendees. There was one evening where they brought in cookies, and we just all got to eat those cookies in the evening and kind of get to meet each other. And it was really cool to, get to know this group from truly such a diversity of schools and parts of the country. And also another one of my favorite parts too was just getting to know people with such diverse interests, from wanting to go into law to medicine to education, into research. That was really cool, and I think I got so much value from learning about other people's interests and getting to make connections and build this community of strong, empowered women, intelligent women that I still have today. And so that's one of my favorite parts of the experience was definitely that community and how much NCCWSL really helped cultivate that community. And then obviously another one of the main things of this conference was getting to attend some awesome workshops and panels and discussions with really inspiring guest speakers, professors, lawyers, educators, businesswoman. That was really cool. One of my favorite workshops that I got to attend was a workshop on civic engagement and activism and how to get involved in your community at a local and regional or even national level, and how to be informed and advocate for what you believe in and make change within your community. And I think it was really cool to hear the tips and advice for how to do those things. But I think what most of all stood out to me about that session was getting to hear the stories of the three panelists. And these three women had such diverse paths through life to get to where they were. And I found that really interesting, first of all, to listen to, but also I think it was really inspiring to me because I think, as young people, it can be, a little stressful when you're making decisions about what your next step is, what job you're going to take, if you're going to go to graduate school or not, what type of graduate school to go into. And I think what I came away from that session with is that there are so many paths you can take, and one isn't better than the other, but ultimately, if you follow what you're passionate about, follow what you're interested in, and keep taking steps forward, you are going to get to where you need to go, and you are going to make an impact on your community. And so I think getting to see that through these three women's stories was really inspiring to me, and also reassuring to me, as a young person kind of in the thick of it. So overall, I had a really exceptional time at NCCWSL, and I would highly recommend it to anyone considering this experience for not only the knowledge you'll learn through the discussions and panels and workshops, but also for the community that I know anyone who attends this conference will make through the connections and friends and people that you will get to build relationships. So thank you for this opportunity to attend this conference. It was an amazing experience.
Hello everyone, I am Amina Usmani from Los Angeles, California. I recently graduated from Maricosta College, located in Oceanside, California, with a BS in Biomanufacturing. I heard about NCCWSL from Jane Sanders from the AAUW Leucadia branch. I have received financial support in the form of a scholarship from the AAUW Leucadia branch, which I'm really grateful for. The highlight of my NCCWSL experience was seeing women from all across the country, from different backgrounds, coming together, supporting, appreciating, and motivating one another. I enjoyed the elevating eldest daughters, navigating expectations, and finding healing as the first in our families, conducted by Eugene Kang, Carla Smith, and Tricia Domingo. Workshop that focused on eldest daughters or only daughters' experiences, health, and healing as university students, especially in the POC communities. As an eldest daughter in my family, I was able to relate to the distinctive challenges and responsibilities discussed in maintaining and supporting family systems. Along with that, I was also introduced to many new terms such as eldest daughter syndrome, parentification, and enmeshment, making it a very insightful and educational experience. I was offered a supportive and safe environment that allowed me to grow personally and heal. Another workshop I enjoyed was designing your postgraduate life, where it showed us how to incorporate design thinking, career education, and positive psychology. As soon as I walked into the room, I spotted Beth Thorne's big, bright, and supportive smile that made me feel welcome. Beth's positive energy, her honesty about her background, and how everyone, and her vision on how everyone has the potential to do the impossible and be impressive by just setting up small goals was something I really adored. And it made a huge impact on my life by making me realize that anyone can be remarkable just by setting up these small, tiny missions or visions. Because not a lot of people realize that, and I was one of those people. I'm part of those people. I thought you had to do something big and huge to make yourself impressive. But that was not that. When after seeing Beth's workshop and Beth's presentation and and learning about her insight, made me realize that no, you start small. So some of the key takeaways from participating in NCCWSL were networking, being inspired by hearing from other successful women leaders, and discovering ways to bring positive changes in my community. Participating in NCCWSL was an amazing experience. I'm really thankful for all of you that made this happen. I am really appreciative for giving me this opportunity to attend this wise and beautiful conference on this stunning campus. Thank you very much. Thank you. And wishing you all a very wonderful day.
And my little announcement has to do with, I made it at the beginning of the meeting, and that is that the Oregon Online branch, I'll get to you, Wendy, the Oregon Online branch needs to fundraise to offer another scholarship for a student, to send a student, a female college leader, to Nickwhistle. So we do have opportunity to do that, but we need money. So anyone who wants to donate to our scholarship fund, feel free. Wendy.
Yeah, I have sort of a public service announcement for myself, basically, for next year. Surprisingly, one of the challenges we have sending recipients to Nickwhistle is getting applicants, at least here in Oregon. I don't know if California has the same challenges, but for some reason we're giving money away, but nobody applies. So especially, like Chelsea and Ariel, if you run into any students who you think might be appropriate, do encourage them to apply next year. We'll be having a very similar process. I wondered if maybe that Association of Women in Community College might help us spread the word as well. So I'll probably be in touch with you, Chelsea, about them. And any other organizations, all of you, if you know of any contacts at any universities or community colleges, please send them to me so I can continue to build that network, because what seems to work best is just a whole of networking. It seems like you have to do a whole bunch of networking to even just get a few applicants. So any ideas, send them my way, please.
And I would say the same for California. I'm the vice president for the membership for the state of California. And there is a lot of emphasis on partnerships and working together with other organizations. And we would just love to be a part of them.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.